Hello, welcome back to the channel. I read a lot of stuff about EVs and reviews about EVs, especially YouTube videos, of course. And what I don't see is that whilst if you go to follow the Tesla videos, you'll get lots of reviews of the software within the car, the over-the-air updates, regular reviews of those updates, reviews of the app updates, and we're all fully aware of how well the car integrates with the app and how the car is updated over the air regularly, adding features and bug fixes. What I can't find is any information regarding other manufacturers and this process. Do other manufacturers provide regular over-the-air updates? How does their app work? Is it worth having? Please comment, let me know. Anyway, sort of related to that was a chat I had with the owner of the Corsa that I reviewed recently. So let's have a look at that chat I had with the Corsa owner and see what they had to say. Hello Vauxhall Corsa owner, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hello.
Now, as I said, I've driven the car. You like the car.
Love the car.
You have no problems with the car and the way it operates and what Vauxhall claimed it wouldn't do?
Absolutely not. As best decision I ever made was to buy that car. It's superb. Exactly what I wanted and expected it to do.
Right, okay. But you do have, you've always had some slight issues with the dealer. Now, I will want to say this could be the particular dealer you bought it from and not all Vauxhall main dealers. No. I've had plenty of Vauxhalls before from a main dealer where I live, and they were by and large pretty good. But I understand the problems started, well, not problems, but the sort of niggling issues started when you went to pick the car up.
Yes, so when I went to pick up the car, I was told it would have a full charge, and it didn't. In fact, I'd test driven the car, I noted the battery, and it was the exact same as when I picked it up.
What was the time between you picking, test driving and buying the car and picking it up for their sort of pre-delivery inspection, I would imagine?
I think it was test drove on a Wednesday, picked it up on a Saturday.
So plenty of time for them to charge it up and...
Yeah, it might have been, yeah, there had been plenty of time. I mean, it's plug it in overnight, but then again, the charge does go from 20 to 80 in 50 minutes on the superchargers, and that is true. I can charge my car in very little time, so I know exactly, and that's as they claim it does.
Right, okay, and so they just basically, you parked the car after test drive and they'd left it there?
Yes. I mean, they put in 30 quid's worth of petrol if I'd bought a petrol car. It could be that they just didn't do that, and if the car had been petrol, they might have put 30 quid in it, they might not have. It's probably easier to take the car to drive it, someone has to drive it out, fill it full.
They would have charged you for that though.
They would have charged it.
When dealers say we'll put a tenner's worth of petrol in the car to get you home, they stick that on the bill.
They do, yeah, and I probably was charged for that, but it's the easiest thing. I think I noted it, and they said, oh, I did put it on charge when I left, someone must have unplugged it. Now, it isn't plugged in on a granny charger, it's plugged in with a cable, so it's a bit odd that someone came along and unplugged that, but didn't really faze me that much. It was an irritant more than anything, because I wanted a bit more battery, but I had enough to get home, and that just meant I got to test the public charging where I live, so I did that instead.
But it sort of sets the seed, though, doesn't it?
It does.
When you were going to tell us the rest of the story now, it sort of sets the seed for maybe the attitude of the dealer, possibly not towards all their cars, but certainly towards the EVs they're selling.
Yes.
So the next problem I believe you had was that the car, one day you went to DC charge it, and it failed to DC charge.
Yes. So the issue was I had left it a little bit. I forgot to charge the night before, had to go to work. Never been an issue.
Let's just say you do have a 7 kilowatt charger at home.
Yeah, I normally would charge overnight at home, but I just didn't the night before. I forgot, got into my car. I knew I didn't have enough to get to and back from work, but I've done this before. I know that there's a charger really close to my home on the way out. I drive there, I plug it in the morning, it's free, normally about 15 minutes. I'll have enough to get me to work and back and a few extra. and then I charge it that night. I've done it before, so I went and did it again. I've used these chargers multiple times, and went to plug in, and my car just said charge complete. And the charger, it was clicking, but it wasn't. That was the issue. It wasn't making any noise.
So the contactor,
struggling.
The contactor.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who maybe not familiar with charging electric cars, when you initially plug them in,
Yeah.
there's usually a sort of clonk you can hear as the contactor in the car switches to take the charge from the charger.
Yeah, you normally expect that little like click, usually to lock in, and then the battery, the charger starts to make a bit of noise, and they usually give it 120 seconds to connect, and usually within that time it connects. It shows how much battery you've got, and and it estimates the time, and then the car shows I'm charging at speed of this. It's going to be 45 minutes till you're fully charged. Wasn't doing that. I have had issues with public chargers before. I've had to call up. I mean, I drive a lot. I've done a lot of motorway driving, and in the time I've had it, I've had to call up two chargers because they weren't connecting. So I phoned them up to say they're not working, and in one case it was resolved. In another case they couldn't resolve it because all the chargers were connected and another car was charging, so they can't turn off the charger. But as soon as that car left, they did, and I could charge again. Irritating, but out of the amount of times I've actually charged, it hasn't put me off. I don't get annoyed by that. So I know sometimes a charger doesn't work. There was another one, so I parked into the next one. It did it again. I thought, right, okay, maybe it's these chargers. So I went over to another charger. I'm very lucky where I live. There's a number of them. So I went over to another charger, again, plugged in. I tried it multiple times, and each time, car said, I know I'm charging, but I think I finished charging. And the charger said, I can't connect with your vehicle. At this point, I'm panicking a little bit, because while I do have a home charger, I do quite a bit of motorway driving, and having a car that I can't charge midway basically means I've made a bit of a mistake. And I thought, this isn't good. Wasn't that happy. Went home. I thought, well, the thing I've got to check is, does it home charge? Plugged it in, and it said, yeah, I'm connecting, I'm charging at 20 miles per hour, and it's great.
So it's AC charging,
AC.
no problems at all.
Absolutely.
It's just the DC charging.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. So decided one of the best things, disconnect the battery.
So there's complete shutdown of
Yeah.
the car, disconnect everything, 12 volt battery. Again, for people who may not know this, all electric vehicles still have a 12 volt battery in them, like your diesel or petrol car, that runs all the equipment inside the car still is all run on 12 volts. The reason for that is that manufacturers make all that equipment to run on 12 volts, so why not just keep using those manufacturers and that equipment? So carry on, please.
Yeah, so I disconnected it, connected back up, took it to the charger, and that seemed to resolve the issue.
So resetting the car, 12 volts to let the car, in other words, completely turn off the car. So essentially rebooting the car from cold,
Yeah.
rather than just turning it off and turning it back on again.
Yeah.
At the switch in the car. Complete 12 volts, which of course reset the time and the date and all the rest of it. But then the AC charging worked, no problems.
Yeah, plugged it in.
DC charging worked, no problems.
Yeah, plugged it in, and it DC charged again. So that was it was a repair, but I didn't want to have to, be in a motorway service station, lifting up the bonnet, disconnecting the battery and putting it back up every time. And I would say I'd had the car a good number of months and been really impressed with it. I mean, I love this car. And I know with its miles, it does the exact amount of miles that Vauxhall said it does. But the miles compared to a lot of cars, I know there are out there who have a lot more mileage than the Vauxhall Corsa does, but it's a car of a certain size and a certain value. So, and that suits me and what I can do. So I do need a charge most motorway journeys, so that would be very irritating. So I called up the Vauxhall dealer.
Your local
my
Vauxhall
local
dealer,
one.
which is the same dealer that you bought the car from.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can book a lot of appointments online and stuff, but as this was, I thought, quite a important thing, and they might know what it is, I phoned them up and they said they'd book me in for a health check. Turns out they booked me in for a health check. I thought they were booking me in to actually investigate the issue.
Explained the fault to them when you made the initial call.
I did. I explained the fault. And then when I got in and I put my car in, they saw me very quickly, and they said, and they understood the issue on the phone. They said, absolutely, you can't be driving around a car that you can't, that doesn't charge. So they took, so I arrived and they said, it's the DC charging. I said, absolutely. And then they tested it. And the response back to that was...
So they kept the car for a day?
Yeah.
They didn't do it there and then?
No, they took the car, they had it for a day. And then they phoned me up and said, you can come pick up the car. We can't find anything wrong with it. So I went back in and they didn't tell me much more than that. So I went to pick up my car and I said, so it's apart from some tyres, they said I needed tyres. They then said, no, it's charging fine with us. And I said, it's DC charging, it's home charging. And I did reset the battery. So I know it's charging. It was charging when I brought it into you, but I had this fault. And they said, no, nothing's come up, no fault codes. So I thought, right, okay, well maybe whatever fault was there, that reset just...
Ghost in the machine.
It just got rid of it. But I'd say within 2-3 weeks, it wasn't really, I couldn't say month maximum, went to plug in, not charging. Again, DC charging, same fault. Cars can see that it's connected to a charger but says charge complete. The charger itself can't connect to my car. I've tried Googling it, but a lot of things, unfortunately, a Vauxhall E is actually a model of a petrol kind of ice car.
It is,
so
yeah.
You get a lot of issues with people complaining about their batteries. People have complained about it, but there's been no fault. So there's nothing there apart from, again, I've disconnected the battery, reconnected the battery, and it seemed to work again. So this time I decided, I didn't feel that confident going back to the dealer because I thought, I don't think they did an investigation, in my opinion. And I think this is the failing, not the failing. I just don't think, in my opinion, I don't think dealers have necessarily caught up or created a new model for their electric cars. So I've had petrol cars that go wrong. You book it into a garage and it's quite easy to poke around in an engine and find, oh, that's leaking, that's a bit hot, that's blown up in one case, and that's absolutely fine. And in 20 minutes, in an hour, they book it in and they can find the fault. With an electric car, unless a wheel's falling off, what is wrong with it? It's either the battery cells are dying. So the tests they should be doing are different. You can't just expect someone to open up the bonnet or the boot or wherever your battery is and be able to tell you what's wrong. It needs someone to assess the battery health. It could be that my battery was on its way out. It wasn't, because it was doing the miles and everything it said. It could be that the software, because it is a software-driven car, might be incorrect. These things weren't checked. And I think, so then I thought, right, well, maybe it's just they still sell an awful lot of, look, they don't just sell electric cars, they sell all sorts of cars. And I think their method...
the majority of petrol diesel cars still.
Yeah. And I think their model is still set up for that. I think if I'd gone into the dealer and said, I want a Corsa, I want a petrol, they would have sold me the petrol Corsa. I went in and said I want an electric, so they just wanted to sell me an electric car. As always, they try to sell you the new one. I didn't want to buy a new one. I wanted the one. I got the 2021. It's not much of a difference, bit of styling. And part of that sale process was, I don't think the patter would have changed any different to whether or not it was like, am I happy with the fact that this one's grey? Or would I like a new one because then I can pick what colour I want of it? I think that was really how they sell cars, and that's fine. I'd already done my research. I knew what that car wanted and did, and I was impressed by what it did, so I got that one. I wasn't particularly a difficult person to sell that car to. I'd pretty much decided that's the one I wanted, so it wasn't an easy sale. So I think that's the issue. So I decided to go to an electric specialist. And they were very good. But
so we're not going to name the electric specialist because that will give away too much information.
No.
But needless to say, they are well renowned as an independent electric specialist.
And I was impressed with the service and the amount that they listened to me. And they did ultimately.
But this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Vauxhall said that they found no code stored in the car. And again, for people who may not be familiar with this, all modern cars, and have done for the last 20 years really, have had OBD, onboard diagnosis, which is basically the car triggers codes when it finds a fault in its ECU, which controls the workings of the engine, or in this case the battery and the motors. And those codes are stored, they can be read with the appropriate equipment plugged into the OBD port, and that will give the technicians or mechanics an indication or tell them exactly what any faults have occurred, and then they can either clear those faults and see if they reoccur, or they can activate a repair on those faults. So if you remember, the Vauxhall main dealer had said that there was no faults stored on the car. So the independent
found lots of faults, and they'd found faults that were related to the charging unit.
So the non-DC charging had triggered a code,
Yeah.
which they found.
Yes. And they updated the software, because the software in my car was also out of date. So they couldn't work out the fault. While it said it was with the charger, wasn't enough for them to really work out what it was. And apparently this was quite a bit of a tricky thing to work out, as they never had, this issue before. So in the end, what they decided to do was update the software.
So this means, again, for people who may not be familiar with this, it's a bit like your phone, which will want to update on regular basis with bug fixes and maybe new features. Vauxhall had a newer version of the software that runs your car, which presumably had bug fixes and all sorts of things in it, which the independents downloaded and installed.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the issue. I've never. So I ultimately think that they did resolve the issue by doing that update of the software.
The fault hasn't occurred since.
Fault hasn't occurred since. I've had no issue with charging at all since. They still believe they were handing me back a car with a fault, but that's down to, I think, the charger they used. I have never successfully charged with a Shell charger.
Because you took the car to them actually charging by
Yes.
DC though, and then they updated the software, tested the car using a Shell recharge charger, and said it didn't work.
Yes. I mean, I have always taken it being able to charge. I can't trigger the fault. I don't know why the fault happened, and why it triggered at all. So I've always repaired it, because I've always needed to drive my car, and it never happens, as always, when you have a fault with your car. It never happens when you don't need it.
Intermittent faults,
Yeah,
of course, yeah.
Exactly. Your air conditioner never breaks in winter. It always breaks in summer. So I've always needed to use my car, and I've needed to charge it using DC charging. So I've always reset the battery. But it was interesting that they found faults, so they know that something had gone wrong. The fact that they thought it wasn't charging, I took it straight to the charger that I use, and my car was charging. And it hasn't happened since. And since the fault first happened, it repeated. I think it happened twice in between the time I had to wait a long time, because they're busy for that EV specialist. It happened twice in that interval. And it happened quite regularly. So it's been months since then, and I've not had an issue. So I do think the software resolved whatever was the issue.
And the software didn't add any new features or alter the display that you saw or anything else in the car.
No.
It was, so I think we can safely assume that the update included bug fixes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yes, it didn't. I haven't got anything
New.
In fact, it looks the same. Yeah. I mean, there isn't really much that my car does on top of.
So I think we can safely assume that Vauxhall had realised there were maybe some faults with this sort of the DC charging in some cars, and issued a software update with a fix for that in it, and you've not experienced it since.
No.
But the interesting thing is that the Vauxhall dealer said that the car hadn't dropped any codes, whereas the independent said there was lots of codes pertaining to DC charging, which they cleared and updated the software, and you've had no problems ever since.
Yeah.
So this brings me back to the experienced main dealers. Why, when you went in, was your car not checked by the main dealer, looking at it, 2021 car, Why didn't it actually flag it is on software version XYZ? There is a new version of software. Why wasn't that either automatically updated, or at least you contacted you and say there is a new version of software for your car? Would you like us to update it? It's got bug fixes and etc. in it, and maybe a nominal charge for doing it.
Well, this is something I don't understand, because the EV specialists resolved the problem, and they actually treated it as if it was a problem. They did an investigation, and they knew that this was an issue, and they treated it as such. And I was happy with that. The main dealers, I did go back and I said, I've just had to go to an EV specialist, and they found fault codes, and they had to update the software to resolve this. Why, when I brought it in initially, was this not flagged?
With exactly the same fault.
With the exact same fault. Sooner, actually, after it happened. Days. And I got told that, well, when they checked it, no faults codes were found. I find that hard to believe, because why would it be throwing faults after, but not the first time it did it? And I said, well, also, but why didn't you think that this fault had happened? Why was the option of software not up? And they said, well, because there was no codes flagged, that told them they weren't informed that they should update the software. Well, this is, I think it's not. So so it's
See,
because
my experience of cars, and I've had quite a lot of experience with cars, simply disconnecting the 12-volt battery will trigger a fault code, and that will be stored in the OBD. And when you read the codes, it will say 12-volt battery disconnected. If you've ever had any BMW Minis or anything, you know that disconnecting the battery can cause all sorts of problems. So these faults and they stay in there until they're cleared. They don't automatically clear, which leads me to believe that Vauxhall, as you suspect, didn't even bother plugging in an OBD. They just put it up on the ramp, had a look underneath, and tried to sell you some new tyres.
I think they plugged it in, but unless they've got a DC charger in their forecourt.
No, we plugged in the OBD.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but I also think they plugged it into a charger, and whatever charger they plugged in, it worked. Well, it was working, as I told them. So I don't think that check was there, but I also think it's the mentality. I'm bringing in a car where, yeah, you can sell me tyres, brake fluid, windscreen washer. That's pretty much what you can sell me. You can't upsell me anything else. You can't poke around and say, oh, well, yeah, your fault's your radiator, but I've been looking, and your coolant. There's nothing upsell. But what you can do, the one thing because garages do want to make money, is you can say, well, we checked your car, can't find that there's any fault, so that seems to resolve itself. No, it's your software's out of date, though. Sell you that. You can sell me that, because I would sit there and go, yeah, update my software. Mostly because I think that's going to be the main fault. But they didn't do that. And when questioned, it was because they hadn't found any fault, so therefore that didn't tell them to update it. And then they said, and then asked me if I needed the car to be updated. And I said, no, I've had that. And, I was charged for the update. And that's ultimately resolved the problem. Now, it's a bit of an odd problem. They'd never seen it before. It's hard to pinpoint, but seems to be resolved now. It's just the attitude. I just don't think they're set up for electric cars as quickly as they should do. I mean, they're not the same.
Training is lacking.
Training is lacking, and I think it's a view that
because they're sort of seen as a minority project at the moment, and why should they devote workshop time and technician time to training, etc. And this is where we came into the video. This is something that I want to know. If you've had experience of other makes other than Tesla, which is completely seamless in my experience, please get in the comments and let me know whether it's a Vauxhall, a BYD, Hyundai, Kona, BMW, whatever. How does the car, how is it serviced? How is it updated? Is it over the air? Is it regular? Do you have to prompt it? Do you have to ask for it? Do you have to search for these updates? Or does the car just present you with a case to update me? I've got new software, like a Tesla. Let me know. This is something that isn't out there. Which brings us briefly to the app. Again, what are the apps like that your car can interface with? I'm assuming that all electric cars have an app of some sort. The Tesla one is excellent. It's regularly updated. It was updated this week. And did it add any functions? No, not really, but it did move things around in the menu, and you can see that they're preparing to add new things. Now, you have the My Vauxhall app, and it's pretty crap as far as I can tell.
It's rubbish. And in fact, when they sold it, they said the app's not great.
Oh, right, so they fully admit that
Fully
the app
admit. I think
isn't brilliant.
I think I'm aware that there's a new app coming. There is a new app. There's 2 apps on the App Store, and there's one for the Grandland.
Because you
and
actually have corresponded at length, I believe, with Vauxhall about the app.
I have, yes.
And they got, I've read the emails, and in my opinion, I think they got a little bit defensive and a little bit shirty. At first, they asked for loads and loads and loads of information which had absolutely nothing to do with what you'd actually said you'd experienced with the app. And then when you said, what's this got to do with anything that I've told you, they then sort of sent it off to somebody else who calmed down a bit. And then they came up with a load of corporate BS, really, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, the main complaint is the app doesn't do anything.
Oh, it does very little.
Well, it does very little. It's very clunky as an actual app. I mean, we all use apps now, and they're usually quite quick.
It's logging you out, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's for security reasons, as I've been told.
My Tesla app doesn't log me out.
Yeah, well...
So who's right and who's wrong? Vauxhall or Tesla here?
Well, I don't really mind being logged out for security reasons, as long as the login process is a bit quicker than it is. It takes ages to log in. When I get there, it takes ages to refresh the miles and connect with the car. So there might be a connectivity issue with the car and the app. It takes ages. In fact, I've had to get in the car and drive it round before it suddenly tells me that I haven't got a full charge. I'm actually down to 60 miles, which I know I am because I'm now in my car. It tells me how many miles I've driven per journey, per month. Interesting to a point. It should have the cool system so I can heat up or cool down my car before I go. And when this works, it's fantastic. I really do like that. When it works. It won't work if you're under a certain percentage of battery. And I completely,
that's standard, yeah.
That is standard, and I completely understand that. But I have had it fully charged, sat there trying to cool the car down before a long journey, and it just won't connect. It just won't do it. I've tried standing right by the car. I've tried standing right by my Wi-Fi router for some reasons, in case it's something like that, and it just refuses to. And then it'll say it's not done it, and then I'll go again. It goes, you can't ask me to do this. I'm already doing it. And you go, oh right, well you didn't. Right. So it's rubbish. Does tell me where I last left my car. Right. Well,
all right. So the
on the drive
works.
Sometimes that hasn't been updated either. It takes a while to refresh and remember that it's actually parked on my driveway, not where I last left it at work. Well, it's not there because I drove it home. The service thing, it tells you that it has a service menu where it says, what your maintenance is. But what's irritating, it doesn't seem to connect. There doesn't seem to be any connection between I've taken it for a service when it needed a service because the car told me and the app told me. So I said, right, well, I'll take it for a service. The app still says that I need a service, and my car is still telling me I need a service.
So just before we end, that I noticed that when I drove it, that it said that it was overdue by 1,300 miles for a service. But I know that you actually had a service done on it.
Yeah, about 1,300 miles ago.
Yeah, and it's for some reason. I mean, is this the dealer again that they just didn't bother resetting the service indicator? In my opinion, it's something that you should be able to do from the app. Well, but I mean, we've tried plugging an OBD into it. We can't read it.
No, and I mean, with the app, I am going to go back. I need to get some paperwork because that's when I had the miles for the service. I'm going to enter that into the app and see if that does anything. If not, I'm stuck driving around with an orange spanner line.
Well, you have to go back and get them to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
I find it very annoying.
It is really irritating because no one likes to see a little warning light flash up on it. It just tells me that.
As much as I like spanners and tools, I don't want to see a little orange illuminated one on my dashboard.
No, it isn't great. So, I mean, there's little things like that. The app just isn't... I very rarely use it now because I don't need to use it to use the car. It doesn't do anything. I can't change any settings on the car from the app. I can't unlock the car with the app. The Tesla app is
It doesn't control
integrated.
charging either, does it? So you can't set charge levels, you can't set charge times.
No, I use that through my charger app. I can do. It seems that I can set defer charging, but I don't like the app, so I stopped using it. I haven't really tested it for charging because my home charger has the app.
Works.
I mean, the one thing with this, you can't set it to charge to a percentage or to a set miles. You have to guess. I mean, it's a bit of, I know the car now. I know based on weather conditions and everything that if I plug it in at quite a low mileage for 3 hours, I won't get.
This is interesting because there's a huge debate on the internet as to how much you should charge your EV battery, and everybody says between 20 and 80% for everyday driving. In fact, it even says that in the Tesla app. And then just charge it over 80% if you're going on a longer journey. I generally do that. But in your case, you plug it in to charge at night. If you wanted to charge to less than 100%, you'd have to actually get up in the night and see how much the car had charged and unplug it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, I guess that.
So doing the 20 to 80 on the Vauxhall Corsa is actually quite difficult. It's because you just plug it in, go to bed, and when you get up in the morning, 100%.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do have the app, and I can choose. I use a schedule, so I'm not charging at peak time for electricity. And yeah, to be fair, I just tend to plug it in and let it charge. And I do give it a 5 hours, and that's 100%. But if I wanted to do under, it's 4 hours probably, and that will probably get to me to about 80%.
It's not an exact science though, is it?
It's not an exact science because if my battery's...
Depends on temperature and everything, as we know. So.
It is, and I have done that before where I thought, well, I only need to do a quick top up, and I've actually got less miles than I kind of wanted. So sometimes I just plug it in and let it charge for 5 hours and cut off. Sometimes that won't even charge it fully in the winter, because it's a little bit cold. So it won't be 100%, it'll actually be probably about 85%, which most people do. I don't think that's really caused any issues. Would it be nice to be able to say, I'd like you to charge it to 80%? Yeah, that would be quite good.
So Vauxhall, if you're listening, get your act together, get the app working, and let's we be able to choose our charge times, charge limits, and that sort of thing, and make it work. Yeah,
but car's brilliant. I mean, that's the thing. There are little things like that. I mean, I have driven the Tesla. I've used it. I've seen the app and everything. But as an electric vehicle, for what it does, the range it works, the size of the vehicle, because a lot of these EVs are massive. I don't need a massive boat of a car to drive around and squeeze into car parking spaces, which aren't really fit for that. They stopped pretty much in the 60s. Cars were tiny then, no safety. But the Vauxhall, I've always loved Vauxhalls. That was my first car. And I do love my Vauxhall Corsa. It does everything I want to do. As a car, it is superb.
It is. It's a good little drive.
I really like it. So it's not that I dislike the car. I think Vauxhall have done a good job with the Vauxhall Corsa and the electric version, and I do enjoy it, and I love driving it. I just think that to really push forward, it's less so much on the cars themselves. It's on the little bits on the outside. It's getting an app, which apparently it is coming. There is a better app. Apparently.
Yes, they did say that.
I don't know when it's going to happen. So there's a new app. And I look forward to seeing that. And it doesn't put me off the car. When I need to get a new one, I'm going to get an electric car. Will it be a Corsa? It depends how the size of car I need. If it is, I might do. It doesn't put me off. But they do need to just improve the app. And when it comes to selling and servicing, electric vehicles are different. And therefore, I think there needs to be a little bit of a step away and an appreciation that they are difficult. And a service on a car that has a lot of moving parts and an awful lot of oil and liquids is going to take more time. You're going to put my car up on the ramp and go, oh, all 4 wheels are attached, brake fluid's fine. So what am I paying for when it's the same price pretty much as an electric? It might be a slight savings on electric vehicles compared to your ICE vehicle, but not enough. I mean, if you're going to charge me something, do a battery health check for me, check the software. I mean, these are things, it's almost like treat it like a mobile phone. Check for the software, make sure it's still charging correctly. And that's a service that I'd be happy to have and happy to pay for.
The way I see it going is you either go down the Tesla route where there basically is no servicing. You check your brake fluid every 4 years and you check your air conditioning, I think it's every 5 years or 6 years it might be. And other than that, they rely on you to check your brakes. You can take it to them if you want, or they'll send a technician out to check. But basically, there's nothing to do in between unless you notice something going wrong. Or I think that suits me. That very definitely suits me. But I think some people do like to have their cars looked over by a professional. And I think that's where they're missing out. That if you could go and take your car to the dealer every year, pay a fee, and at the end of that, they give you a printout that shows you the health of your battery. I think that will be good. It would also aid resale, possibly. And they've updated it to the latest version of the software and done the usual checks on brakes and tyres and that sort of thing, and suspension bushes and what have you. But I think if people could come away with something like that, that would be something they would be willing to pay for. And it would give them that peace of mind. Oh, my battery's at 99% health, look. And
well, the paperwork I'm given, there's a whole long list of things they've checked, and my car don't have half of them.
Because it's the ICE car,
the ICE car.
And I think they're still doing that thing where they check every wheel nut and count each one as a separate check.
Yeah, and it's not the product. The product is good, and if you want a actually small EV with decent miles. I mean, if you're someone who's going to drive from Scotland to London every day, then no car is going to have enough miles for you. But if I do journeys up and down, and I use the motorway, and I travel, and I'll drive. But I don't mind stopping, having a coffee, and charging up because it's a quick charge, and that is the one thing that the Vauxhall do. I mean, I looked at a number of vehicles around the same size, and the one thing that the Corsa does is quick charging.
Yeah. Hats off to Stellantis. Their small cars do charge quickly, generally faster than other people's small cars.
And that was a big draw. Also, I've got some big boy equipment on that car compared to these smaller cars. Yeah. So as a car, it is a choice that I recommend, and as an entry level for a vehicle, because when you go in, it's wheels. I look down in between the steering wheel, and there's my speed.
As my review, which you can watch. If you can drive, if you're used to driving ICE cars, you'll get in this and drive it quite happily, because everything's where you expect to find it. It's got knobs for what you expect to find knobs for. All the haters out there who don't like using the screen on the Tesla, and what have you, fair enough, I can understand that. Yeah. It's one of those things that you may not like. But I will say, give it a try first, and not just 5 minutes. Actually, drive the vehicle, give it a good try, learn how to use it, and I think you might find different. But if you definitely need to fondle a knob to make something work, then Vauxhall Corsa, it's there.
Yeah, product, fantastic. It's just catching up, I think, to where it's going. And I have done a Tesla day. I've driven, I went in, test drive, and it's a very different experience to your traditional car sales now. Normally you go into your car sale dealership and they'll try and sell you whatever car that they need to because they've got quotas to match. And
some sharp fellow in a suit with pointy shoes and a big watch.
Yeah, and then they're going to try and get you to buy the car. And with Tesla, it was just like, do you want to try them all?
It's just some bloke with long hair and a t-shirt.
And it's very relaxed. It's very different. There's no pressure. Though I nearly came out having bought a Tesla, so somehow it works. But it's a very different experience. And I just think that when you're trying to sell an electric car, and I think it might be different though if I walked in and I said, I've got an awful lot of money, I want the top of the range BMW electric car, and I do like them, they look good. I'm probably going to be treated very differently than going in, well, I've got a set budget and I want this small electric car. I know, I understand all that. So, but it is just, I think, overall, it's just realising electric cars are different. So you do need to treat the servicing and any issues with them, which aren't going to be simple solves. They probably are going to, well, it is going to be a simple solve. It's going to come down to what's the software doing? What's the battery doing?
I think most of the time it is, yes.
So it's actually quite a lot simpler than going, well, I need to replace your whole engine because it's gone bang. So it actually is simpler, but I just think that therefore you need to treat it more like, well, these are going to be simpler fixes. Let's get them in, check the software, check the battery health. And that's really what matters. And I think it's just changing their model for for electric vehicles and comparing it, that they are different. So you're going to...
quick enough. So, Vauxhall, it seems to me that you've got a good range of EVs, but what's lacking is your app, which, as we've established, is not up to much, and possibly the training in your dealer networks. You need to get proper EV trained technicians who will carry out a proper service on an EV when you take it in, because after all, you're paying money and it seems to me that you're not getting what you've paid for. Certainly not with this Corsa driver in this instance. If you're listening, Vauxhall, I'm quite happy to discuss this with you. We can do an interview, and if you'd like to give me some of your EVs to test, that would be great. Okay, so let me know in the comments what your experiences are with other EV manufacturers and their app and their software updates. So until next time, thanks for listening and goodbye.